Hello everyone, my name is Alex. And my name is Alex. And we're going to teach you about factoring today. Now there are a few ways to factor, and we're going to go over 4 to 5 of them. But they all kind of rely on this same format. ax squared plus bx plus c. Now I'm going to point out that it's all going to look like that, but sometimes values are going to be 0. And I'll point out when that is. Like for this first one. Well, first let's go over the first type of factoring, GCF, or greatest common factor. And what that means is like the biggest thing at each value is divisible by. So like 2x squared plus 4x is divisible by 2x. So you can factor out 2x and x plus 2. And if you multiply them, distribute it properly, 2x squared, 4x. And so your root is x equals negative 2. Since you're solving for x, that's 0, negative 2, and there it is. So, multiply at the point, this would be your answer. Alright, and the next one
Can I do dots now?
Oh, you're going to keep that? Okay, nice. Okay.
So dots is the difference of two squares. Difference of two squares. And the difference means subtraction. So it's going to look like this. Ax squared minus c. So for example, 9x squared minus 1. And these are both squares. So 9 squared is 3, and negative 1 is 1. Or just 1 rather. And negative 1 means it's going to be set up like parentheses with plus and 1 with minus, with the same thing. So like 3x plus 1 and 3x minus 1. So you factor it out, or FOIL it rather. Get 9x squared, negative 3x, 3x, and a negative 1. And the 3x and negative 3x cancel each other out, so that's why there's no p-value. This can also work with a combination of things. So like 72x to the 4th plus 50y squared can also has a value. So these aren't perfect squares in themselves, but you can use GCF to make them perfect squares, like 2.
So, that equation. So, as he said, you can factor out the 2 and make it 36x fourth plus 25y squared. Sorry, minus. And that is dots format. So you factor further to 6x squared minus 5y times 6x squared plus 5y. And that cancels out and leaves your roots. And for factoring, that's as low as you can get. So that's what it is for now. But you can get something more accurate with a different formula. So next is AM, or addition, multiplication. And this is a factoring where A has to equal 1. And that kind of ties into another thing when it doesn't equal 1, but for this one it has to equal 1. So like for this one, 2x plus 1, you look for the factors of c and see what they add up to 2. So the factor of 1 is 1, 1, negative 1, and 1. And it can't be these two because that would equal negative 2. Give me that, this equals 2, so this is what we want to choose. So we split up into this. So then we just factor it out, you get x plus 1 times x plus 1. And you can actually write that as x plus 1 squared, and just multiplying by each other. And that's actually similar to the completing the square. So we work out that as 2x equals negative 1. Then we just add it. First we find the square of this, so it'd be b over 2 squared, 2 over 2 squared, 1. So we add quote 1 to both sides, and you get the same thing. And we just do the same thing. If you did have a value over here, which usually you do, you find the square root of this and the other side, and then you're left with just like x plus 1 equals something, and then you combine like term, or like solve for x. That's not really a question, but that's what you do for the square. And next is AC method. You're gonna take this again?
Alright. AC? Alright. AC is just A value times C value. So, for example, if you have 2x squared plus 15x plus 7. To factor out, you multiply a and c, which is 14. And you find the value, the factors of 14 that add up to 15. So just like am, so 114, 2, 7, and you're not going to do negatives because no negative is going to add to a positive. So 2 and 7 is equal to 9, which is too low, but 114 equals 15. So then you're going to split up into 2 halves. So, hey, can you stop? Gosh. Okay, so then you have 2x squared plus 14x plus, which is kind of separated from this, but you have plus x plus 7, and then you use GCF to usually find it. So 2x is a common factor here, x plus 7, and there's no common factor here, so it's just x plus 7. But if there is, you do the same thing. Technically, it's actually 1, which is important later, but these two must equal each other. If they must equal each other, or else you've done something wrong. So you have 2x plus 1, in the parentheses, times x plus 7. And those are your factors. And you can also solve for x. So you have like x equals negative 7, and then 2x plus 1 is equal to 0, minus 1, 2x is equal to negative 1, divided by 2, x is equal to negative 1 half. So now your factors are negative 7, or your coordinates rather, and then negative 1 half, your roots. Alright.
I think we're learning a bit on time, so let's try to go this last one really quickly. The quadratic formula. So these are all quadratic equations, but the formula is this: x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now there are various ways to remember this, but those are separate videos, not related to this one. So just know that this is it, and you just take the values and plug them in. So you can do this for anything, so for anything, even numbers that don't, even for roots that don't really exist. So like, we could have this, you have to put this in this format so that it lines up. So you have this plus 5, you're adding 5 sides, and you just plug it in. So you have negative b, so negative 3, plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 4, just a, times c, which is 5, over 2 times back. Sorry, gosh. And then you have 3 plus or minus 9 minus 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 5 is, what's that, 85, I think? No, that's way wrong. 16 is 80. That's just 80. Over 8. So 9 minus 80, negative 3 plus or minus square root of negative 71 over 8. And now this negative in radical, that you can't times something by itself and get a negative number. And that's what squaring means. It's timing something by itself, because a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative is negative is positive. So this doesn't really exist. It's actually imaginary. And we write that as I, which just is kind of like radical, negative 1. Radical 7, and then 8. And radical 71, you could, I don't think you could simplify that, but if you could simplify it, so if it was like 16, you bring up 16 and write 4i. If it was 32, then you'd have 16 times 2, so you bring out 4i radical 2. But 71 is prime numbers, there's no factors and no perfect squares, or if it's not a prime number, it has no perfect squares factors. And that's why factors. So these are your roots. The plus or minus means there's 2 roots, and what the I means it's imaginary. So there's no real roots, but if there were, there's 2 of them. That's what plus or minus means. Alright. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.